So one important thing that I want you to really focus on and even take notes of, right, is this simple sentence. Even though I'm going to ask you to write it down, it's possible that half of the class still don't understand what it is in a month. It sort of sounds easy, but it's not that easy. It takes a while for everyone to really grasp it. So it's the concept of opportunity. The concept of opportunity is inside a concept which is called SWOT, SWOT, the SWOT analysis. The most complicated one of these, they are not all complicated, but the most complicated one is opportunity. The opportunity is by far the most complicated, and it's still quite complicated because it's the center, it's the heart of business. It's like we're looking at medicine, and I tell you what's the most important. Well, there's the brain, there's the heart, and the opportunity is sort of the art. If there's no art, there's no human being. If there's no opportunity, there's no business. So the opportunity is what's changing in the environment that you can take advantage of. So if I say the idea is to make an electric car. Why would you make an electric car? Well, because why would you make an electric car? Well, because everybody wants an electric car. Are you sure about that? What do people want? People want what's good for them. Are you sure? Do people want good for them, or do people want what they think is good for them? Well, maybe more people want what they think is good for them. Yes. So how do you make people want things? Well, you tell them 1 time, 2 times. The more you tell them it's good for them, the more they believe it's good for them. Oh, that's all it is. Yes, that repetition. Repetition makes people believe in what they hear. Another thing, if everybody says it, it must be true. People have this thing that if there's more than one person, if everybody seems to be saying the same thing, it must be true. So is it really true? Could everybody be wrong? Everybody could be wrong, but it doesn't matter. That's philosophical. In business, you don't worry about what's right or what's wrong. You just believe in people believing what you want them to believe. So you want people to believe that electric cars are better. Fine. So that's an idea. But that's just an idea. You don't run a business. You don't grow a business. You don't start a business. You don't continue a business based on an idea. What do you mean? That's what people do all day. They come up with idea and they run their ideas. No. When people do that and they are successful, it's because they were lucky. If you look at it, failure is much greater than success. And failure is much greater than success because people run with an idea. So what should they do? They should look at opportunities. An opportunity is not an idea. An opportunity is a real factor, a real change, a real trend that you can take advantage of. All right. So if the consequence of the opportunity is an electric car, what would be the opportunity? And this is a question to you. What would be the opportunity? What would be the cause? Go ahead, Dylan.
For the climate?
It'd be an opportunity to participate in leading to more sustainable energy. To be able to contribute oneself to a cause.
A cause. So that's correct. So you could say there's a group of people who truly believe in the environment being endangered, and therefore they believe this is a cause that merits attention, and they will make choices based on those choices improving or hurting the environment, and therefore since they've been told that the electric cars are better for the environment, they're going to want to do something that is better for the environment. Okay, that's true. That's
right. And perhaps it might help their wallet.
help their wallet. So that's usually a better opportunity. What is that?
Saves money and the environment. And this.
Well, now there's a simple way to help their wallet. Gas prices are up by 20% in the past 6 months.
They don't have to pay for gas, and charging the car is way cheaper than.
Sorry, I think it's Satanic speaking, but I'm not sure we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying, charging the car is way more cheaper than filling up the gas every other week.
So charging.
Electricity is cheaper than gasoline.
Yeah, electricity is cheaper than gasoline. Exactly. So gas prices are expensive. They are going up. That's an opportunity for people to want to look for alternative options. Exactly. So opportunities are changes that makes people go one way or another. So when you're a business person, you don't think of an idea, which is to make an electric car. You think of an opportunity. It's kind of, I don't want to be misinterpreted like a bad person, but it's like when you're a business person, you're not in love with electric cars. And therefore, that's what you want to do because you're in love with it. When you're a business person, you're in love with opportunities because they will generate growth. So you're in love with the fact that gas prices are up. That way, you can make electric cars and make money because that's an alternative. Right? So you look for changes in the environment. People want to be on diet. So then you do diet soda, diet water, diet milk, diet sugar, diet vegetable. They want to be on diet everything. So they don't want to be on diet. They want to become obese. And then you're going to do high calorie this, high calorie that, high calorie. So it's what people think they want is what becomes what you're going to do. So you follow. They want to take the train. Oh, the train is better. They want to take the plane. Oh, the plane is better. So then the definition I'm giving you is a little bit a definition of someone that has no conviction, a business person that has no conviction, is give them what they want. But I have to tell you this because it's like a default way. The default way is give them what they want. And then if you have a conviction, let's see if your conviction is what they want. But you don't start with your conviction. You always start by what's the center, which is what do they want? Now, do consumers know what they want? They don't know what they want. Do consumers want online newspapers? I mean, you ask someone in 1982, do you want an online newspaper? 1982, they say, do you want what? An online newspaper, a newspaper that would be on the screen, like your TV screen. Oh, that's the last thing I would want, an online newspaper. And then online newspaper came, and then the traditional physical newspaper disappeared. People didn't know that's what they wanted. They just discovered the online newspaper, and little by little, we discovered that that's what they wanted. So what I'm trying to say is, which is very, very confusing, I grant you that, but you have to understand this, is the default is what consumer want is what you give them. Now, is that true 100% of the time? No. Why? Because they don't always know what they want. Okay. Once you know what they want, which they may not even know that they want, it's like the consumer wants online newspaper, but they don't know that. But you know this because you've done enough research that you've identified the fact that if there was such a thing as online newspaper, that's what they would want. They don't know it. So then you're going to create the online newspaper, and then they're going to see it and go, oh, I would have never thought I wanted that, but that's what I want. And that's more difficult. It's always easier to give them what they want, what they say that they want. Sometimes the danger too is that they say they want something, but when you give it to them, they don't really want it. So that was bad collection of information because there was a bias that you didn't discover when you were doing the research. But the default is the customer is the king and they know what they want. Then comes you checking it to make sure how much they want it, if it's real. And then 3 is what is your conviction? Because you're going to be running this business. You may be the owner of the business. You may be the founder of the business. And therefore, if you're not interested in giving them something that they want, it'd be a nightmare for you to run that business because you won't have the passion that is required in order to sustain the developmental growth. Because when you start a business, you don't make any money, let's say. But if you have some passion and you know that's what they want, then you have the stamina in order to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years until you make the connection between them and what you're giving them. So that's what an opportunity is. An opportunity is something that really exists, that is some evidence, some change in the market that you can take advantage of. So let's look at some examples. CSUN, what's the ID? What's the opportunity? So CSUN is the idea is to provide education to a large number of students without stereotyping the students and in a very equitable way. I guess that's what student is. Student has this very strong democratic, universal and inclusive education of idea of education. So what is the opportunity? What do you think would be the opportunity?
Probably growing financially.
Financially. So what do you mean?
Job opportunities after education.
So yeah, it's true. So the opportunities is, let's say, there's a growing need for nurses. And that's sort of why for the past few years, they've been saying, quick, a nursing school, a school of nursing. We need nurses, so let's do that. We need more people speaking Japanese, so let's teach Japanese, right? The opportunities, I mean, you're not saying what's the opportunity, but if your interest is to have an inclusive and diverse and equitable university, and you are in the Silicon Valley, maybe it doesn't work. But if you're in Northridge, where there is a diverse population, some people very wealthy, some people not wealthy, some people working full-time, some people coming from a diverse ethnicity and so forth. That's why that's perfect. But if you're trying to do that and you are in the middle of a farmland in Oklahoma, maybe it would not work as well. So the opportunity is you want to teach a diverse group of students in an area which has a lot of diverse students. The opportunity is great. We have those people that we want to focus on. All right, so like I say, it takes a month for some people to understand what opportunities. Let's take the other one, Martha Stewart. What's the ID? So I'll do the ID. The ID originally, she wrote books, cooking books. So she was writing cooking books. for people, for housewives, so they would cook better? What's the opportunities?
The opportunity would be that they are able to feed their families wholesome food for low cost.
Opportunity to meal
No.
prep.
Now, the opportunities is a lot of housewives that are bad cook.
Opportunity to like get sales up because everybody wants to be perfect.
Yeah, when she did it, this was in the 60s, and there's a lot of housewives that says a good housewife is a housewife that feeds her family with some rich and fancy cooking. And that was the wrong, fulfilled the wrong. The society has said that if you're home and you don't work, you better cook. Otherwise, your husband is not going to be happy.
Also, she is almost that nurturing caregiver that is also kind of a place to that kind of as that role of the housewife is providing peace, providing stability in the house, that calmness after a long day's work or after a tough day at school, children come home and meal is on the table. So
yes,
food, so sustenance, but also good food at that, and always a good mind, and always kind of that consular kind of persona.
Yes. Yeah, the mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was I'm not saying that Martha Stewart did this in the 60s. You know, she was like, what do? I don't know anything about cooking. And her husband said, well, you know, 1% more than the rest of the people. Just don't tell them you don't know. Write a book, fake it, make it, and make sure there's enough people that don't realize that you're faking it and you're just better than them. And then they'll follow you. So that's what she did. And so when she did the first book, they said, Martha, Martha, I need a second book and a second book and a third book and a fourth book. And then they went, Martha, Martha, but how do I cook? Help me with my kitchen. So then she did kitchen accessories, kitchen appliances, kitchen decor. Then she went into home decor because people needed Martha to tell them what to do.
And to be like Martha in a way.
To be like Martha.
Or to at least to connect with Martha as Martha Stewart, you know.
Martha Stewart. I mean, Martha Stewart is not the only one. Oprah Winfrey is like that too.
Yeah.
People want whatever this person says is what I want to do. I need, you know, it's like a guru. Is I wake up in the morning, I'm lost. Tell me what to do. Quick. Oprah, tell me what to do. Quick.
And also they share also that, and like Martha Stewart, the interior designer, Martha Stewart, the culinary expert who has kind of been able to gain that wisdom over the years through trial and error. And something of that then is like, well, even with mistakes, then Martha Stewart though is still kind of imparting that vicarious experience.
Yes, exactly. And so why do I mention this? Because I think I'm not making fun of her. I'm actually saying that this is remarkable because in business, there's an element of risk, but you can see it as risk or you can see it as leadership. And so I will tell you, explaining that to you, I've just explained it with Martha, but that was the 60s, it was a long time ago. Today, it's called social media. And sometimes in social media is a little bit like this, is fake it, make it. So pretend that you are expert in, I don't know, cars. And you see these people, they knew nothing about cars. And then they go on social media and it's 1 car, 2 cars. And 2 years after, it's possible now that they've done 5,000 cars review that they're becoming really an expert. But in fact, they had the courage, the bravery, the audacity to start at the beginning, pretending that they knew about, I don't know, yogurt, shoes, fashion, makeup. And eventually people follow them because they knew about makeup 1% more than them. And then they became the guru because obviously they're getting samples every day. They're talking about it every day. And it's been several months, several weeks. And now they sound like the expert. And so in business, that's what you have to do is fake it, make it. There's a lot of this is you have to put your shoes in the pilot shoes. And you have to say, you know what? I'll take the responsibility. I'm going to take this and bring it up and grow it. And it's on my shoulder. I'm only 22 years old. I'm only the son of so-and-so. I'm only the daughter that I didn't go to school. I went to school. I only went to that school. It doesn't matter. Is whoever is ready to take responsibility becomes a business person. And so that's also very, very important. That's what Martha did. And that's why she's looked as a very famous American entrepreneur, because she took this job. I mean, there's another person that I've mentioned for what, maybe more than 10 years, is Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary Vaynerchuk mentioned, I've known Gary Vaynerchuk since 2005. And I've mentioned about it since just almost about that time. You may notice that Gary Vaynerchuk is mentioned almost everywhere for the past 3 years. 5 years ago, I would ask in the class how many people would know Gary Vaynerchuk. 5 years ago, I was lucky if I got one person. Now I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, and we could do this. How many people know Gary Vaynerchuk? And what? It's probably, I would say it's a third of the class. So Gary Vaynerchuk is a simple person. You know, it's not so simple because he's still a very complex person, but it's the same. He started very simply by, he was one of the first to believe in email marketing. So he was doing email marketing in 96 or something like that, 97. I mean,
he owned a wine shop.
Yeah, he was
or his family did.
Yes. So his father owned a wine store, a small wine store in New Jersey. That was not anything special, more successful than the other, just one of the wine shop. I mean, wine shop like the one his dad owned back in New Jersey, back in the 90s, I would say there's more than 300 of them in Los Angeles that were the same size as his dad. But what he did to his dad's store is he said, we're gonna advertise directly to people using email to let them know about what we have to sell in the store. Obviously, his father, what did his father say? His father said no. What is the second thing his father say? It's a waste of time. What is the third thing his father say? Is you going to be wasting your time? We're too busy. It's too expensive, you know. And eventually his father business sales multiplied by 3, 4, 5, 10, just of the use of email marketing. Then he went into internet marketing, and then he went into wine reviews through using YouTube. So that was much later. That was in 2004. So he was maybe not the first, but he was among the first to do reviews on YouTube. Like you would go in 2004 and you would look at YouTube, and it was just, it was just garbage. There was not that much you could find on YouTube. It was a place where people would put trailers, you know, professional trailers and all of this, and a lot of garbage and trailers. Then it was a place where you would find people posting video of their baby smashing cakes and birthday cakes and all this kind of thing. That's what YouTube was about. Then he came and says, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to create my own TV channel, and I'm going to talk about wine. But Gary, how much do you know about wine? It depends. What do you mean, how much do I know about wine? How much do I know about wine? From my perspective about wine, a lot. From the perspective of the snob experts, snooty experts, not very much. But from my perspective, which was just a common man perspective, I know a lot. From having tasted them, I had my own opinion. He has a strong personality. He puts his personality into it. His wine reviews were fun. His wine reviews at the beginning had 30 views, 50 views, 200 views. You know, at the end, he got tired because he got burned out. He did thousands of those videos. He had millions of views on these videos, and he became a YouTube celebrity. Now there's a lot of YouTube celebrity. There's a lot of reviews on YouTube, but back then in 2004, 5, 6, there was not that many, and he became very successful, not because he was amazing, is because he was amazing, but that was not the number one. The number one reason is because he was the first doing this. Number one. Number two is because he was doing it pretty much every day. He had 25 views, he had 110 views, it didn't matter. He was doing it every day. And he was just building a huge portfolio of videos where people will eventually bump onto his videos. Another thing that he did that was remarkable is he took to a new audience. Most of the wine reviews were very snob people. They were using very snob languages, and they were sort of intimidating and only speaking to other wannabe snobs. Versus Gary V, he was speaking very simple language, and between his wine reviews, he would talk about baseball. He would talk about football. That was what actually the people that was listening really understood. They understood nothing about wine, but they understood football and baseball. And they were looking for his little comments because he was really an expert in baseball and football, much more so than in wine. But he was making wine available with the language and with the format, which was non-threatening, non-intimidating, very simple, the way people wanted to hear it. A specific group of people that were never addressed when discussing wine. So what is the idea? Making wine simple, making wine talk for dummies. 101 about wine. That's the idea. Oh, that sounds good. What's the opportunity? More and more people are drinking wine. The people who are drinking wine are very confused. If they are not confused, there's no opportunity. If everyone knows exactly what to do, they don't need a guru that knows 1% more than them. They need 1% more than them or 10% more than them when they're confused. Wine is very confusing. And so they were confused. People were using the internet to learn more. There was a thing called YouTube. YouTube is growing. People are watching video on their phones, on their laptops and so forth. That was the opportunity. So do not confuse the idea with the opportunity. An investor, what does an investor, you're speaking to an investor, right? Like tomorrow, I'm going to go speak to one of the biggest investors in California, one of the most famous. My meeting, 11 o'clock, think about me. I'm going to go speak to this person. Am I going to talk about ideas or am I going to talk about opportunities? I'm going to have to talk about both. But what most people do is all they talk about is ideas. This is my idea. I'm in love with this. I'm in love with this. I'm in love with this. Investor wants to hear what is it that makes you think that it's going to work. People are using more and more the internet. People are learning from what they hear on the internet. People are bored and using the internet to entertain themselves. TV is going to go down. I mean, that's what he was telling people in 2005. And people say, people are not going to watch TV anymore. Yeah, the average person watch 4 hours of TV. There's going to be a kid in a university that's going to come with a discussion board, and everybody is going to shift to the discussion board and not watch TV anymore. No way, no way, no way. And it's going to have a funny name like Facebook. No way, no way. And that's what you talk. You said, no, there is a shift. There is data. I'm not looking at a crystal ball. I'm looking at data, and the data is telling me that it's shifting right now, and it's hanging fruit. Low hanging fruits are opportunities. The idea is what you do with the fruit. Okay, so when you look this class, I have a teaching assistant that's going to help you. My teaching assistant has worked 3 years with me. When I told him about the project you're working on this semester, you know what he said? He said, no way. Professor, you're not doing that. And you know what he said I should not be doing? Is I should not be giving you a project where you don't really have to look for the opportunity. What do you mean? Well, I already gave you the opportunity. It's earthing. It's natural health. It's grounded shoes. I already gave it to you. So normally the students spend a month and a half looking for the opportunity. And then they take this opportunity and come up with an idea. In that situation, you already know. What's interesting is, like I said, when I heard about this opportunity 7 years ago, there was no brand of shoes. It was just people telling you, take your shoes off, walk in the grass. Take your shoes off, walk in the sand. Then some smarty pants said, hey, why don't we make a shoe that keeps you walking in the grass? You don't have to take your shoes. Bingo, that's an idea. The only thing is this idea are still not being fully developed. And I would say, I mean, we're not going to be together anymore, but in 1 year, it's game over. It's probably done by so many brands that the project you're working on right now is irrelevant because things are going very fast. People are not stupid. They see opportunity, they see it's growing, they see that's one of them. So right now, this fall, you're going to be working on that, and you're going to have to explain how to make it bigger than what it is, with which brand should it go after. So what's very important that you understand is the difficulty here is not to identify the brand. Finding which brand should be going after earthing is very easy. I think a 12 years old could figure this out without taking this class. So that's easy. What's not so easy is first is you need to remove from your head that you need to find the brand first. Remove this from your head. First is you need to analyze what this industry is about. You need to analyze the shoe industry, you need to analyze the sports industry, the lifestyle industry, the hobby industry, the health industry, a bunch of things, a wide analysis of the environment, what's going on and changing in our environment to identify further opportunities beside the earthing one. And as you become more knowledgeable about those changes and those industries and what the earthing is about, it's going to come to you naturally which brand is going to be more appropriate in order to take advantage of all of this. So you're not going, because if you think about a brand, you're going to be very narrow. You have to think about the whole changes. And then from that, naturally, which brand will make more sense? It's going to be easier. So I don't know, an example. If you find that the people that I'm making it up, I don't take my information as gospel because it's more closer to nonsense than the truth, but it's just for the illustration. So if you say that most of the people that would care for a shoe that ground you to the ground are female, and then you need to find out the data for this. I have no idea what's the data, so I have to make it up. It's just that a female have sore legs, painful legs more than men. I'm just making it up. Don't hold it against me. I'm not a feminist or anti-feminist or whatever. It's just an assumption. Then if you say that the female that tends to have the worst legs are the female that work in the health industry, like nurses. So you find that nurses are the ones that are very peculiar about the shoe that they use and also about the health and this concern about, being a lot of time on your feet and so forth. And you go, that's interesting. And you have data and sources, and according to the Wall Street Journal this, according to Forbes this, according to the Journal of Medicine this, some good sources, and it's not from 1963, it's recent, then you're in good shape. And then you go and you say, okay, so nurses, what do they wear? Well, they wear Skechers, it's true. Yeah, they wear some Nike. Yeah, they wear some Adidas. Yes, they wear some Reebok. Yes, but don't everyone wear those shoes anyway? Yes. Is there a specific brand of shoe that they wear? Yeah, actually, there's a brand. I've never heard about it, Professor. And as I was researching that, I found this brand called Ryka, Ryka. And then I studied Ryka, I studied the earthing, I studied the nurses. And I think this would be a great match because you will have Ryka making a specific line of shoes, you know, not just for nurses, but having sort of the nurses in mind, the people that stand up, the people that serve. So maybe it would be not only nurses, but it would be people working in hotels and restaurants, you know, the hospitality industry, and blah, 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 blah. That's all I want. That's all I want. I want just, and why are you teaching us this? Isn't that common sense? Yeah. That's why there's some people, they don't go to the university. What do you mean? Are you insulting us? No, I'm just trying to tell you that there's some very, 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 very successful businessmen that have 0.0000 degree and are yet very, 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 very successful. And all they do is they have just a good common sense. And they just know how to put the things together. So what do they do? Well, think about Chobani. Chobani Greek yogurt. After 10 months of business, he went from making $1 to making $1 billion in 10 months. What? How did he do that? He did common sense. What do you mean he did common sense? He came from Iran, came to America. In Iran, he was just eating good yogurt. He never thought there would be such a thing as bad yogurt because it was just good yogurt. He came to America and then he faced bad yogurt. And he went, what the heck is that? And then he found that in America, since people didn't know much about yogurts, they bought the cheapest milk as possible to a point that everyone wonders if they were still buying milk to make the yogurt. But anyway, so they were buying the worst milk you can more and more in order to save a buck. And eventually the yogurt became worse and worse. I mean, that's kind of, I mean, it's like if you do a strawberry tart and you buy the worst and worst and worst strawberry every year, eventually the strawberry tart is going to become more and more disgusting because the strawberry at the end are like, where did you get your strawberry? Well, you don't want to know, you know, and that's going to be bad strawberry. So that's what they were doing with the yogurt, is you didn't want to know where they were getting the milk. So Chobani came and said, you know what, simply what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a farm and say, hey, farmer, do you have milk? Yes. Let me look at your cows. Oh, your cows look good. They don't look like they're going to die in a week. I'm going to ask to buy all the milk from those cows that look healthy. I'm going to taste this milk and I'm going to buy it all. And with this good milk, I'm going to make good yogurt. It's that simple. And then that's what he did in New York. And he started as a small garage yogurt company. And 10 months after, he was making $1 billion. And then every year it was, I mean, the thing went crazy. What was the idea? Making good milk using good, making good yogurt using good milk. Yeah, man, that's not rocket science, exactly. And what was the opportunity? There were enough people that if presented with a good yogurt, will see the difference. And if presented with a good yogurt, would go, Hallelujah, thank God, Allah Akbar, whatever you want to say, and they would jump on the yogurt and say, that's my yogurt, that's all I want. I forget all the other yogurts. I don't care that it's $1 more expensive, enough of bad yogurt. And these people existed. That was the opportunity. If these people did not exist and they had no clue the difference between a good yogurt and a bad yogurt, then you know what you need to do is make it even worse. Keep saving money. And at the end, it's called yogurt. Who cares? It's their problem. And so he found this opportunity. So that it's very simple. It's business is like that. It's first common sense, and two, good research. Good research in order to minimize the risk for failure. You know, that's it. If you understand this, you don't need a degree. You just need to do it. Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Dylan.
This kind of reminds me of some of the one of the links that was sent on the syllabus. It was, I think, from the creator of FUBU clothing and fashion.
Yes.
And one of the essentials for his success that he talked about in the interview was not only knowing his product, but also kind of that care for quality, that passion for the culture surrounding it, to be able to dedicate oneself to that business, FUBU, and make it something beyond just cool t-shirts. It was like beyond just saving money on t-shirts itself. And I think that's somehow I can relate to that, is that when a person is able to care about it beyond just the dollar sense,
exactly,
then I think that's something that can also be seen with a lot of really good kind of sourcing artisan kind of craft products that, like, for example, so much of reasons why people like Whole Foods is because it isn't just some anonymous kind of generic kind of Safeway Select kind of style. It's something where every single item is someone had created something that actually has quality at its core.
Yes. Yeah, quality is very important because, you know, eventually it's like saying hard work eventually pays off. It's true. Sometimes it's hard to see it because it's not like life and the world is not fair. But it's a little bit the same with quality eventually pays off. But you still have to be very careful because there is different bias in the perception of what's quality and what's not. And therefore, it's quality in the eye of the beholder. So you have to be very careful who you're selling the product, because what you may perceive as quality may not be by the target. So not only you should do a quality product for what you believe is quality, but at the same time is you should make sure that when you're selling it to the people who have the same match of perception of quality than the one that created it. I'll give you an example of something similar to that. So often I have students that come and say, oh, professor, I was an A student. And because of this, I want to go to a law school. Can you write me a recommendation later? And I say, oh, that's interesting. So you want to go to law school because you were A student? I guess you can. But why do you want to be a lawyer? So then I usually takes me 10 minutes to get to the bottom line. But I'm going to make it short. So I'm going to go, blah, 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 and then you get to the bottom line. 10 minutes after, it's, well, because the neighbor of my uncle is a lawyer and he constantly, I see him driving a brand new BMW. I go, wow, so you want to be a lawyer really because you daydreaming of the neighbor of your brother who has a BMW, a brand new BMW regularly. Yeah, I have to admit, it's pretty vain. That's why I want to be a lawyer. And then I said, but you're not going to be very happy because you're going to be doing a job just for the hope of getting this BMW. That's not going to make you a good lawyer. A good lawyer is someone that likes to read a lot. Do you read a lot? Not really. It's someone that likes to write a lot. A lot. You write a lot? Not really. It's someone that likes to go to debates. How often times do you belong to a debate club, to a Toastmaster, to a UN international or something discussion? No. So why do you want to be a lawyer? I mean, that's all the things you're going to do all day. And argue and read laws and all of this, I mean, you're gonna hate your life because that's what you're gonna do. But all you're gonna think about is that brand new BMW. It may work for a little while. You know, you get one brand new BMW, two brand new BMW, three brand new BMW, then a divorce and a no more BMW. And you're gonna say, why did they become a lawyer? I'm miserable. And then
And BMWs are money pits also.
Yeah, it could be true. It's nice, but you know, it could be a Porsche or whatever. It's the fact that they haven't totally understood what is the wrong. And so when you go in business, it's the same. Oh, you want to be a business student? Yeah, why do you want to be a business student? Well, my uncle is a business, my parents are a business. I don't really like biology, physics, and mathematics, so I became a business student and all this. And then I asked the students, okay, so what's it in business? What's the role of a business person? Because you can be a business without a license. You don't need a license. Not like architects or lawyers or accountants, CPA or whatever. You don't need a license. Why do you like to be in charge? Do you like to lead people? Do you like to think in terms of ideas, opportunities, and you're constantly boiling for ideas and opportunities? Do you have to get things done, you know? And so I have this picture. I show them this picture and I say, you see, there's a lot of sheep, but there's one sheepdog. There's one guardian. There's one person that needs to take charge. All of those sheep, they don't know. They are there. They didn't decide to be there. They just need to be led. So when you're a business person, a little bit like a politician, if you want, is someone that's decided to take leadership. So a politician, you know, it's for political thing and reasons and the community and all that. When you're a business person, is because you want to enhance the world around you by dragging people to follow you in your with your ideas of what's a better world. So better yogurt, you know, a better YouTube video, a better whatever you want to do. But that's what business is about. So in order to do that, and I know there's always some students, this students that either understand everything I'm saying and they say, wow, this is my eyes are opening and I'm totally loving it. And there's some other students, they look at the textbook and they go, but what? They don't say that in the textbook. They talk about the environment with the factors in the environment. Okay, so let me go back to the people that follow the textbook and don't understand the message, the deeper message I'm trying to send. So that's it. Now I go back to the professor in the textbook. So I'm going to put myself very straight like a book. So in order to understand opportunities, you look on page blah, 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 blah. You have a marketing environment. So the marketing environment is telling you about all the factors that will be contributing to your opportunities. Factors such as the direct factors, which are called the micro environment, and the indirect factors, which are called the macro environment. Micro, like a microphone. I have one right here. Mic is closer. So it's the one that is closer to the company. It's the one that surrounds the company. Macro is with an A, like a Mac, Macintosh, macro. And that one is surrounding the micro. So the company is in the center. It's directly influenced by the pink, the micro, which the pink is directly influenced by the yellow, the macro. Okay, so all of these are influencing each other. The difference is that one has a more societal influence, such as politics. So the political is if they change the laws, if they mandate things, you don't have a choice but to follow most of the time. Cultural is what people think is right. What people think is right is probably right. And what the way people think, people have different philosophical beliefs. Like when I started this class, we were talking about buying an electric car. There was a time people didn't buy an electric car because they didn't care that much for the environment. Now, caring for the environment, it's part of people's concern. Therefore, cultural movement is caring for the environment. So when you sell something, is you can say a positive carbon footprint. So like I buy this, I use it. Now the next time I buy it, there's a little sign that says positive carbon footprint. Oh, I buy 2. That way I'm going to be more positive. I buy 3. I'm beginning to be more positive. You know, fair trade. All of these are movements that are very good, but they are part of what the marketers have realized that the people want to see. So there's a cause and effect. It's like the chicken and the egg. Do marketers do things because they want the consumers to start learning about it and want to follow it? Or do marketers do things because they see the consumers are finally getting interested and therefore they're doing it because they have the fear of being left out? There's a bit of both. Some companies are leading towards the right direction. One company I like to mention that is that way is Patagonia. A clothing company called Patagonia is a company that would, I think, sincerely, genuinely take positions on some cultural decisions that may go against what people think even, but because it's better. So that's really good. And there's some company that are just going to follow because it's sort of the right thing to do in order to increase sales. And so you have to understand this. And then the demographic are the elements that have to do with where do people live? Do they live more on the West Coast, the East Coast? How many people in what generations? So the impact of generations, the impact of age, the impact of birth and death. So that has an impact on business. You know, I remember one time I was presenting the fact that in Europe, that was in Netherlands specifically, there was a company that had several nightclubs in Netherlands. And these nightclubs, they could see their sales going down. And they saw their sales going down because in Netherlands, the number of people that were 18 to 25 years old was shrinking. So there was less of that specific group that would go to the nightclubs. So the nightclubs were not as full. And they found that this group of people that went to the nightclub tended to be younger, 18, 19, 21. And these people didn't drink much alcohol, in part because they actually smuggled alcohol inside the nightclub. So that way they would not pay the price of the alcohol inside the nightclub, which was not the case so much for the older people. So it was more of a younger group smuggling versus the older group. The older group didn't go to the nightclubs anymore. So they were still closing the nightclubs. 25 nightclubs, suddenly there's 20 nightclubs, suddenly there's 15 nightclubs. And then someone did an analysis of opportunity in terms of demographic. And what they found is there was more and more old people in Netherlands. And these old people were Netherlands. I don't know if you watched the last Olympics. It's just amazing the amount of sporty people. You look, it's like America, Russia, China, you know, Germany, Netherlands, France, Italy. It's like Netherlands. I mean, it's minuscule. How come they have so many gold medals and all that? Very active people. So they stay very active. They stay young, past 60 years old. And these people were bored. And so those nightclubs started advertising their nightclubs to the 60 plus. So everybody told them, you're crazy. No, this was not an idea. This was an opportunity. Active, 60 years old, bored, looking to do something. So obviously they had to change the music and the DJ. They had to change the time. The nightclubs in Europe is very different than America. Most of the nightclubs start awakening at 1 o'clock. I mean, if you go to a nightclub at 12 o'clock, you're a weirdo. Because there's nobody that goes to a nightclub at 12. They open at 12, but nobody goes there. The people that go there are the weirdos. So people go there at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And when they come at 6 out, they go to the bakery and they find their croissant and so forth. It's different. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just telling you that's what they do. So
Bars close at 2 a.m. in Los Angeles.
It's very different.
Must have been missing out for the past 2 years right now.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, 2 a.m. It's not even starting in Europe. So
Exactly. There's underground parties for that. And then,
yeah, there's underground parties in LA, and then things become a bit more hectic because people know it's all underground and crazy and so forth. So they become more crazy. So then that becomes politics. Which one is better or whatever? It's different. But anyhow, so those people say we can't do that for the plus 60 because obviously they say, oh, we're going to put techno music and hip hop, and it's going to be big bass, and it's going to be getting very hot at 2 o'clock, and the 60 years old say, no hip hop, no techno, no big bass sound effect. You know, it starts at 7:30. And those people, 7:30. Wow, what's going on? And it's over at 12:30 at night. And the drinks are too cheap. We want fancy drinks. So then the nightclubs say, oh, let's try. And then they realize they made more money with the plus 60 than they made with the traditional group of people. And they don't even want to see the traditional group of people. It's like, go away. You smuggle booze, you make us work all night, and we make less money with you. So that's what business is about. Business, it's black and white. What are the opportunities? What makes sense? All right. So demographic, I gave you an example. Economic, obviously, it's, you know, do people make more money? Do people have savings? Do people have a job? Right. So that's all the factors. The natural is the issues that have to do with the environment, sustainability, the access to raw materials. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of issues with plastic in the US, getting plastic, getting glass, getting wood, getting microelectronic components, you know. So natural resources right now have been a long time that we haven't faced that. All you have to do is go to Long Beach and look at the boats that are waiting outside. And so all of this has an impact. And so the flip side of opportunities are called threats. So if there's a new material that is available, natural material, then that's an opportunity to use it. But if it's not available, that's not an opportunity, it becomes a threat. So not everything is always opportunities. Depending who you are, they can be threats, and some threats can be opportunities depending on which company you are. You know, like gas prices are going up. That's an opportunity for electric cars, but it's a threat for gas-powered cars. So again, depending on who you are, these. Then technological is obviously technological from a communication perspective, technological from an engineering perspective, some new patents, some new knowledge, some innovation you can take advantage of. So these are the macro because they are impacting the companies, your competitors, your customers, the intermediaries, the suppliers, and all of this, and indirectly impacting you. Okay, so suppliers are obviously very important because they help you in the process. So, for example, for my cognac business, supplier, you know, I have cork supplier. That's very specific. And in the cork business, there's either the plastic cork or the wood cork. Because I sell cognac, almost I would say nobody use plastic cork for cognac because it's too noble, expensive product that you would want to use plastic. So we use cork, but when you use cork, there's different type of corks. So you look for the supplier that has some kind of a warranty for the longevity of the cork because you don't want the cork to disintegrate. So when you're a cork manufacturer, you constantly do research in order to find a new process in order to make your cork in a way that they last longer when they are in contact with a high proof alcohol and things like that. So the suppliers, when they come to you, is they say, we used to have this method of production, now we have a new method of production. Instead of using this glue or that supplier of cork from Portugal, no, we use cork from Spain because in Spain they have a tree, which the tree is also like this and like that, and because it gets more water and than in Portugal. So everybody fights for their own advantage that they have, okay? So suppliers, I use several suppliers of glass, bottle glass. And obviously they work on a new design in order to offer a bottle. So for example, for a bottle, obviously there's a attractiveness. It's always better if the bottle looks more expensive than you pay. So it's like, let's say $1 is the average price, but you have bottles that cost $1, but they look like they're worth 80 cents. And you have some bottles, they cost $1, but they look like they're $1.20. So you always look for this. But for a supplier to be able to make bottle better, there's a style. So it's the design of the bottle, but it's also the production, the use of the glass. So they try to design the glass to be thinner in places where it's not necessary for the glass to be thicker because of some property for the strength of the bottle. So it's always engineering the bottle to be stronger when it needs to be stronger with more glass, to have less weight. With less weight, you save on the cost of the bottle, and therefore they can reduce the price and increase the quality on all this. In addition, so we go back to political, those bottles that contain the same volume but weight less gets a carbon stamp. So it's like you have like a rating. How much carbon footprint does it generate? And some country, not so much in the USA, but for example, Canada, when you're trying to sell in Canada, is they accept for you to sell bottles based on many different characteristics. And more, you are able to sell in Canada depending on the rating of the bottle that you use in order to sell it in Canada. So they're accepting just a specific rating because they want to minimize the use of glass and negative carbon footprint and all of this. So they constantly add laws. Soon it will be also in America. And that's why they changed exactly a year ago, in September 2020, the size of bottles that you can use. It used to be 75 centiliters or 750 milliliters in America, and only America and Canada was that way. And then the rest of the world, so there's like 2 countries, 750 milliliters, and 200 countries, 700 milliliters. So last year in September, the government decided to make it also 700 milliliter. It's a small details, but for the environment, it's a big details because then they're going to remove one of the size, which is going to increase the production of just the same size for everybody else. And it just streamlines everything and it makes it easier in terms of storing, inventory, and all of these different things. Small details. But when you're a business person, for example, for me, because I'm a smaller business, it was such an opportunity because right away I switched my bottle selection to the 700 milliliter. And just so you know, in 700 milliliter, I have a choice of 1,000 different bottles, big choice. The bottles that were in 750 milliliter, there's maybe 200 choices. So it's like 20% of the design only exists in 750 milliliter versus the thousands of them exist. So there was some bottle that I really liked, and I was always debating having them for Europe versus the one for America. It was a total nightmare. And now I'm very excited. I have a much nicer bottle that I use everywhere in the world. So it's cost savings for me. So why am I saying this? Because when you look at opportunities, and I will tell you this many, many times, but because it takes a while to understand why am I saying that, you have small opportunities and you have big opportunities. So a small opportunity, for the example I just gave you, is when they authorized in America the 700 milliliter. It's a small thing. It doesn't change my life, but I take it. It's still an opportunity. It has improved my business by 0.5%. Then you have big threats when Donald Trump decided to increase the importation of cognac with a plus 25% taxes on cognac on December 2020, starting in January 2021. That was not a small threat. That was a big threat. In fact, my business in America went from hundreds of thousands of dollars to zero overnight. It didn't go half. It went flat, zero. That murdered my business in America, that rule. And then when Biden came back and said, no, we cognac all day in America, welcome to cognac and all this, that became a big opportunity, right? So when you look at opportunities, be careful. You are judged on the size of the opportunity. So the earthing is a big opportunity. A smaller opportunity, like one step down, will be, well, I guess it's the same. It's a natural health alternative. So people are looking for natural health alternative. Okay. Now I give you a small opportunity. A small opportunity is using YouTube videos in order to talk about the positive impact of using earthing shoes. So I make it up. Let's say you go on YouTube and you look for earthing videos, and let's say you find 2 or 3. And then you say there's only 2 or 3. There should be hundreds of these videos. So therefore, opportunity is YouTube as a device. So be careful. You don't want to say it as an ID. As an ID is we will use YouTube in order to post earthing videos. That's what you're going to do. Opportunities are not what you're going to do. So I'm going to change this into millions of people are using YouTube every day in order to learn about new things. That's the opportunity. Using YouTube in order to inform people about earthing, that's the idea. You need to understand the difference between the two, because you don't want to confuse what we're going to do is the idea. Why we're going to do it is the opportunity. So in business, we want to hear about the why before we want to hear about the what. Okay. So now, of all of these factors in the environment that will affect the opportunities, so, direct and indirect, which means macro and micro, demographic, suppliers, customers, intermediaries, competitors, political, cultural, blah, blah, blah. Of all of these, okay, which one do you think is more likely to be the most important?
Customers.
Exactly, customers. Customers is by far the number one. Who said that? Who is that? Manuel?
Yep.
Excellent, Manuel. That's absolutely correct. The customer is the number one. And this follows everything I've been saying since we started the class, which is the king is the customer, the center is the customer. What do they want is what we give them, right? So exactly. So the customer. Just for the sake of discussion, who do you think would be the second one?
Suppliers.
Why?
Because without the suppliers, you can't create stuff for your customers.
So yes, you do need the suppliers, but it reminds me of the bicycle race, which is called the Tour de France. It's one of the biggest in the world. And I remember that was like, I think I may be incorrect by 1 year, but I think it was in 1984. If you ask the guy that won in 1984, what was, let's say 93, you ask in 93 and before that, what makes it hard? He'll tell you the hill, going up the hill. But if you say what makes it hard, the Tour de France, well, the other thing that makes it hard is there's other people racing. You're not by yourself. So in business, it's the same. You're not by yourself racing.
Competition.
So the competitors are before the suppliers. What was different? That's a big deal. In 1984, there's a company called Look, L-O-O-K, that came up with an innovation, which was that your shoe was tied to the pedal. So they invented the clip where you would go with your foot and you will clip your shoe. And so therefore, when you pedal, I think it increased by 20% the power you would have on the pedal, because the people before that, either they had nothing or they had just had a little piece of iron where your shoe will sort of niche itself and be sort of stuck, somewhat stuck under the pedal. But Luke did something that was crazy. Everybody thought they were crazy. Is he tied the shoe to the pedal? So some people would say, but what if you want to stop? Well, the reality is you turn your heel and the clip will come off, right? But a lot of people would say, I don't want to use that because I don't want to die not being able to come off the bicycle. So there was only one guy that in 1984, he was already a very good racer, but he was the one that says, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to get the clip. And he killed it. He killed it in 84. You know, and in bicycle, there's always a question of drugs and all of this. I know it's a scary sport because of the drug, but I'd say in 1984, he won. Everybody would agree, not because of the drug, but because of that clip. And in fact, if you look at the race the year after, in 1985, there was 150 people that did the race, and there was 150 people with a clip on their shoe. Nobody decided not to have the clip. They all went for the clip. And there was not just Luke making the clip. There was many brands that sort of developed their own clip patent, right? So in the world that we live in, a lot of people, they think that the best source of opportunity is your competitors. You know, I don't want to talk down on the brand, but I think it's a big question to me. Is when I look at a brand called Hyundai, for example, is there's a lot of things that I feel looks like something else. You know, there's a lot of Hyundai that you look at them and you go, this looks like a Ford, and gee, this looks really like a Mercedes-Benz and all this. So a lot of brands, in order to grow, instead of taking an opportunity, what they do is they copy another brand, hoping to surf as well or better the opportunity that the original brand was surfing. This is, you know, one strategy. I don't think it's the best. I think the best strategy in business should be to try to be innovative, but you don't want to be innovative in a closed view. Is you want to be innovative with the relationship you have with your customers, but at the same time observing and in close contact with what your competitors are doing, because you wouldn't want to come up with a solution for the customers thinking, you know, like in a poker game, that you have the best cards. You also want to sort of survey and always constantly review what your competitors are doing to make sure your cards are better than your competitors. So that's what's very difficult, is you need to be closer to your customers than your competitors, and constantly aware of what they're doing, and sort of guess, because you know that's the best you can do, but guess the reason why they're doing certain things. Why are they changing things? Did they see something before we did? Because remember what I told you, not only you need to go and satisfy the customers, but you need to do it better than your competitors, sometimes knowing that your customers don't even know what they want. So there's a little bit of a gray zone here where you need to anticipate. So that's what in business is called anticipate, visualize. You have to have this visionary view of what needs to be done in order to satisfy them better. Okay, so if I say, where do you mine your opportunity and threats? We mine our opportunity and threats in the marketing environment. What is the marketing environment? The marketing environment is made of two layers. The direct layers to the company is called the micro environment. And the micro environment is made of 6 factors. Then around that environment, indirectly, there is the macro environment, and that one is made of 6 factors. For the quiz, not everything is very simple for the quiz, but that one is very simple for the quiz. Is you need to know what I just said the last 25 seconds, plus understand each one of these factors. The intermediaries is the people that you also use in order to help you with, let's say, transports, and inventory. So, you know, like you have a accountant, that's an intermediary. You have a advertising agency, that's an intermediary. You have people that do your public relations, that's your intermediary. You have people that help you with your insurance, that's your intermediary. Okay. Then what's left is the competitors. So I just started talking about it. In the competitors, what's interesting is you have direct and indirect competitors. It's like Pepsi is a direct competitor to Coca-Cola, but Evian is still a competitor to Pepsi too, but it's an indirect competitor to Pepsi. And milk is an indirect competitor to Pepsi Cola. Okay, so you have different level of proximity between competitors, but you don't want to underestimate the indirect competitors because sometimes, you know, things change and all of these different things. Then the public are the people that are not direct stakeholders. They are the people that are in your environment, like the neighbors, the consumer groups, which will have an influence on what your company can do. You know, where the city officials that have some say, and the neighbors and all of that. And then you have one last thing is the company, because the company has employees, and your employees and the history of your company, your reputation, your brand in itself has some elements. So when you look at the company, this time you're talking about the strengths and weaknesses. So the SW are inside the company, and the O and T are inside everything else. The number one opportunity, if I had to say, and this was Manuel that said it, is the customer. Now, what is the number one threat, if we could say? What is the number one threat? The most common threat?
Competitors, maybe?
The competitors. That was Zachary?
Yes, Professor.
Yes. So you're absolutely correct, sir. The number one threat is the competitor. So competitors are 95% of the time in threats and 5% of the time, maybe, in opportunity. The idea here is you have to imagine the situation that the grounded shoes are in, because right now it's not popular. So how do you make the movement spread across and become more popular? My specific research, I mentioned it in the first class, but I'm specialized in luxury goods. One of the most famous companies doing luxury goods is called Louis Vuitton. And so Louis Vuitton originally was making just handbags, and now they make shoes and belts, perfumes and fashion, clothing and all that. And so their last inspiration for design are NBA players. So they designed the Louis Vuitton fashion as if this was the clothing used by NBA players. It's interesting that they used that group, because when you go back to the origin of luxury goods, the people that would have been the inspiration would have been the people that are the aristocracy, the novelty, the kings and princes and queens, people that are extremely limited in number and sort of live in a world of which is discrete and all together just with themselves. And people will buy these products because it will be made in small quantities just for them. It would be very subtle. And then the luxury goods became more democratic, and more people wanted to have access to these goods. So they started creating sub-brands. You know, Armani became Armani Exchange, and they created more accessible products. And then they started to use more popular figure in order to support the growth of those more popular brands. And now you can see that they use soccer players and basketball players as the experts. And what's interesting is we live in a world where it's becoming more difficult to define who is the expert. Is the expert someone who has actually credential of being the expert, or the expert is someone that has a number of followers on Facebook? This person has the credential because of their career and the recognition that they receive and the education level that they achieved, and maybe the reputation among the peers that they received, versus this person has the expertise because they have millions of people that follow them or know them, makes them the expert. So this notion of who are the experts? So for the grounded shoes, you could say the experts are the doctors. Could be. The experts are the people that write books on earthing. It's like the most sold book on earthing. This author, John Smith, is supporting that specific brand of grounded shoes. That's one way of getting maybe some movement. Maybe it's to get recognition for the most comfortable shoes is this brand X, Y, and Z. And it happens to be also using a concept of earthing, which is, could it be Paris Hilton? There was a time where Paris Hilton was the default name in order to sell a product. She's not anymore. That's sort of been transferred to Kim Kardashian and her sisters. So should she be the one supporting the earthing shoes? Should the earthing shoes be supported, popularized through maybe some sport figure? I mean, religion doesn't work as much, I guess, but there was a time where it would have to be someone very high rank religious person that would be supporting the popularity of something. But I suppose this doesn't work anymore. So things change. Obviously, when you have a company, you try to find the one that has the best ratio, how much you spend, how much you get. An NBA player, that's very expensive. So unless you're using a big brand, and then it's sort of easy. If you say, well, Nike could do it. I mean, Nike can afford anything and everything. So I guess that would make things easier. But you sort of not want to jump to conclusion that it's going to be Nike advertising it in the Super Bowl. I mean, if you were to do that, would it work? If Nike was to advertise the earthing shoes in the Super Bowl, would it work?
Well, would the earthing shoes be in their own advertisement? Or is it possible, for example, like in a Land Rover commercial, there's a very powerful scene where just so happens that the drivers of the Land Rover are wearing earthing shoes. And perhaps that scene was so influential because it was that favorite actress or actor who was very outgoing, had a lot of followers on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and a dozen other apps, and then just happened to have been wearing the earthing shoes while driving the car or something.
Yes. So, there's several things here. One is the issue with product placement. So, for example, the most common one is James Bond. James Bond is sort of the epitome of product placement. And so that's why sometimes the James Bond movie are sort of boring, because it's like, with my watch, I was able to see the bad guy, and then I was able to pull my perfume to get the pretty girl, and I was also able to take this airline company X to go there, and it's just a brand after brand after brand, and then they not only show the brand, but the brand have a role inside the play. That's good. Then you could use a specific person as a product endorsement. Then you could use the common man or woman as well, which is kind of interesting because it adds credibility. So, the common man, it could be, again, if the targets are older people who have issues, it's like older people who have issues with stress because they have a lot of responsibility.
What could be like an aspirin commercial then, like Bayer and Bayer or something.
Donald Trump behind the Earth shoe would be a good one, I think.
Well, we're trying to get people to buy the product, not reject the product.
Yeah. So, yeah, the problem with
Well, he was voted president, so I mean, I can counter that with that, right?
Well, it's
unfortunately
essentially we have Super Bowl is all about all inclusive, all embracing, kind of no matter where they stand on things, it's bringing everyone together.
Well, the thing, yes, with Donald Trump, the issue will be that it is someone who is not universal. And therefore, you would have to say, okay, so the earthing shoes is more of a Republican type of target.
I mean, if that's the market,
that's the market, yeah. But
yeah.
The problem is saying that that shoe works more for Republican. If there's data that says that, then you could do that, and you should do that. But then, if it's just the politics, the partisanship doesn't have any weight. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if it was like the World Cup, for example, the World Cup, I mean, an earthing shoe.
Yeah, the World Cup
position itself.
The problem with the World Cup, I think you would have to. I don't want to solve what you're trying to do and tell you what to do, but it seems to me the Earth products are for people who, I don't know if there's an age. There may be, but I'm not sure. I don't know if there is a gender. I don't think there is, but I think there is a concern with. I don't know if it's technology, because I think it's more of alternate people that care about alternative medicine. So people that care with things that have to do with the people that buy crystals, for example. I did a project with this class, the same class, 2 years ago for a company that was making crystals. And it's kind of a good story. I'll tell you very quick, because in 2007, there's someone that came from, I think he was from Nicaragua, and he asked to be the client for this class. And I said, why? He said, because I'm about to go bankrupt. And I said, well, why? What are you doing? He said, well, I would like to be the client because I need some help. I came to America with no money. I'm from Nicaragua. I think it is Nicaragua. And I started this marble company where I buy slabs and I sell it to home builders. And I've done very, very well until 2008. And now it's 2008, I'm going to go bankrupt if I don't find a solution. So he came to the class, and this was very, the students loved it. He was in the class and he said that to the students, help me, I'm going to go bankrupt. I need a solution. So all the team worked with different opportunities. You should sell red slab and not black slab. You should be on Instagram or whatever stuff people were saying. And then there's one team that came to me and said, no, because the market is shifting from business to business. So meaning a slab business selling to a business that build houses, he should go to B2C. So he should retool his company, rent a store, a small store, and have a display room in his small store and should display the marble. And then I listened to that. They showed the opportunity. I said, wow, that's a really good idea. That's great. Then all the students, there was 30 team, like they're going to be this semester. I read all the paper, and that one was really good. I gave it to the client. It's a true story, I'm telling you, 2008. I gave it to the client. The client got the report and the top 5 reports. He read them all. He never talked to me again. And then in 2010, he told me that later. In 2010, he was really about to go back to Nicaragua, turn the page, move on. And he said, you know what? He ran into someone that had a small store and he made a display. He started selling in his store. And then he made 100,000, 200,000. 2015, he was making $15 million. In 2019, he came in January 2019. Well, in fact, he came in December, just before Christmas of 2018. And he jumped on me on the parking lot of the campus. He said, hey, do you remember me? You know, I was the client in 2008, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I've been looking for you. You were on my list of the people I was to call. And I couldn't wait to tell you, I make now $37 million with the project that the student did. I have 20 stores. I'm in 4 states. And he says, my whole family want to thank you. So he came to the campus and he made a donation to the class from 2019 of $5,000. So I gave it to the top 3 students of the class, the $5,000. And then he made a promise for $150,000, which is going to give little by little for the students to get scholarship and all this. This is a true story that happened in this class. But then I said, you're so nice, you're giving money and all this. What can I do? And he said, my wife has a project which has to do with stones, but has to do with crystals. And I said, what do you mean crystals? It's a totally different ball game because it's not about big stones, but just some very refined crystals. And people buy them because they put them in different places in their house because it's supposed to bring good luck and good emotions and all of this. So they're very pretty crystals that come from Brazil or different places in the world. And so I said, of course, I want to help you and your family again. And he was like, you can do it for sure. And so we took this project and I ran it in 2 different classes. And so we came up with a plan for his wife to grow the crystal business on the side. And the crystal business was also very interesting. What I will actually do is I will email you a few of those reports on the crystal business, because I have the feeling that there's going to be some connection between the people that believe in those crystal healing, having crystals to heal and distress you and make you stronger and sort of be part of, feel the environment. And anyway, it was funny because when we finished this project, it was just about my birthday, and someone offered me a big crystal, which was a lamp. And so obviously when I got it, I felt sort of understanding what this lamp was about. So instead of taking it and put it in somewhere, I put it in my bedroom just in case. Now I have a crystal in my bedroom. I don't know if it does anything, but I'm happy to have it there. And so I feel that there's people that believe more in this kind of things. There's an obvious group of people that believe in, natural healing, and they are very spiritual from that perspective. So I don't think this is a minority. I think there's some people that are really into it, and then there's some people that are less into it, and some people are not into it at all. And so that's why when you mention about Donald Trump, to me, Donald Trump, maybe he's a very spiritual person. Maybe he is. Obviously, I don't know Donald Trump personally. But to me, it doesn't come across as the typical person that I would say is very spiritual, very introverted and into the environment and all that. So I don't know if he would be the right personality for this, but someone that believe in that. And there is a kind of a strange thing that there's more and more people that believe in extraterrestrial people as well. Obviously, because of social media, there's a lot of talk about the fact that we're going to have extraterrestrial people that are going to come back. So I think there's a trend as well towards this, believing in things that can't be explained, and they take just some kind of faith inside in whatever. That's where you need to search. in the crystal healing, I remember there was a group of students that did research on witchery, for example. 30 teams, there was only 2 teams that did research on witchery. 28 teams didn't think about it. When I heard they were doing research on witchery, I personally, I don't like to judge because I don't know everything. So I didn't judge. I said, I wanted to know if they were weird or if it was just a good idea. And I asked them, why are you doing research on witchery? And then they said, we're doing research on witchery because there's more and more witchery. Witchery is coming back. People that believe in witches. And apparently one of the center area of witchery in the US is Los Angeles. And so there's more and more people using witchery to heal and witchery to get someone in love or not in love. There's a lot of changes like this. I knew nothing about it. So obviously I said, okay, show me your sources. And so there was more and more interest in that specific aspect. And so they went for people that care about healing and witchery and try to sell the crystal to these people. So that's kind of the way you need to be. You can't be judgmental, and you have to be very kind to your team member in the sense of, mostly right now, we're still in September, is everyone should be allowed to say sort of anything just for the sake of discussion. So you don't want to limit and be like a cookie cutter. Cookie cutter at this stage of the research rarely gets far. So it's if there's someone in your team that's kind of creative and thinking really outside of the box, listen to them and then write down what they say and don't discount it and don't make fun of them or say, oh, that's out of the subject. At the beginning, it's very important to be open-minded. In business, this is called brainstorming. So brainstorming is only good if people feel that they can say what they want and they are not being judged for it. Now, when it's in October and November, you don't want to be, things need to be more concrete. So you don't want to keep thinking too creatively. Now is the time, later is less the time. Okay, I think Trevor has a question.
Yeah, hi, sorry, Professor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so what you were talking about with the crystals and the witchcraft, isn't that sort of targeting a demographic in a way that might not be for an opportunity?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the
Yeah.
opportunity targeting and demographic. You're absolutely correct. And that's
Okay.
what they were talking about this for that specific thing, because this lady came to us and said, everybody has a personal story when you talk to business owners. And what happened is this lady had someone in their family that got really sick. And she, for some reason, got into a situation of really sort of hoping and praying. And so she had some kind of spiritual situation that made her face to face with those crystals, and that had a positive impact on her. So then she had this idea of, since she was in the stone, but she was in big marble, like to remodel your kitchen or your flooring and all of this. Then she had the idea of, because she was talking to suppliers, they were supplying crystals and marble. And then she says, oh, send me some of these crystals. And also what she told me is sometimes they would send, like $1 million of marble. And inside the container, there was 2 or 3 beautiful crystals that they would send as a gesture of good luck to her, because it came from Asia, or it came from Brazil, or it came from Iran, or wherever. And so she kept those crystals, found them very attractive, and then found out about this crystal thing, then got some situation in her family, and then went back and saying, I want to do a business that has to do with crystal. So that's how she started, but she didn't do research. She doesn't even know how to do research, even though she has a successful business now. And so that's our job. It's your job to learn that you don't start a business and cross your finger. Is you think about an idea, then you say, ooh, ideas are dangerous. Let me identify the opportunities before I go too deep in spending money in my ideas. Then you look for the opportunities. So that's what you will be doing. What are the opportunities supporting the earthing in addition to just the concept of earthing? And that would help you in finding the demographics, finding the cultural trends, finding the political changes. All of these different things is like a mine, and you're going to mine all of these. But when you mine them, you don't want to be superficial, and you don't want to limit yourself at the beginning. Openness at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I had one more follow up to that, just with the politics. Not getting into picking sides, but doesn't it seem like, I mean, it seems like it'd be a bad business strategy to potentially alienate like a huge amount of your customer base by picking a side. But maybe I guess in some situations there's exceptions and it would be better to target a certain demographic.
No, well, the problem you see is, how can I say? You cannot, not everybody is gonna like me. I don't want to say you, but that's the way the world is.
I get
Not, yeah, not everybody's gonna like me. It is possible that you know, like I'm a professor. I come. My only objective is for people to learn and hear their success story afterwards. But then the day I show up, the first minute I may be judged because I have an accent, because I'm younger, older, man. I don't know. There's always judgment. Therefore, the world is made in such a way that you cannot expect to please everyone. So when you have a business, it's the same thing. Is you cannot have a business and say, I'm going to do a business that's going to be universal. So what you do is you have to be know that from the beginning, and therefore develop a business which is going to be more special for a specific group. So if you do the earthing shoes, is you may say, these shoes, because of some data that I have, tells me, the data tells me that it should be for people over 60 years old. And therefore, it's not like you're alienating the people less than 60 years old. It's just based on the data, focusing on a specific group that likes, most likely to be positive and responding positively. So it's not discrimination to do that. It's just maximizing your chances of getting a yes from these people, because you know before they know that this product is better suited for them.
It's more specialized. Makes sense.
Yeah, more specialized. For example, let's say I don't mind skateboard. Let's say it's not like I dislike it, or I love it. Therefore, for me to buy brands which are more known within the people that do skateboard does not make that much sense, because I don't affiliate myself with skateboard. So when they sell skateboard branded products, I'm discriminated against, but I'm naturally discriminated against because they're focusing on a specific group, right? So you can't think in a democratic way when you have a business. Is you just think about what's the best match. And sometimes this match expands. Think about the Tom's shoes. You know, when they started, they were not for everyone. And then they developed different designs, different colors, you know, and then they were more people interested. But at the beginning, there's a specific focus. And again, I go back to that video. So that video, that was the concept I was trying to explain, is you have to have this vision of who is going to be the first people. And I'm sorry to use this analogy. Please do not take it the wrong way. That's an analogy I've been teaching since 95. It's an analogy that I used since 95, not 2020. But when you're in business, you're sort of responsible of a virus. And it's a virus that you're going to transmit. And to transmit this virus, you have to think about who's going to be the people that are going to be the most likely to catch this virus faster than anyone else, and then spread it from inside out. Like the movement you just saw in that dancing. Not everyone is the follower, not everyone is a leader, but the leader is not what's interesting. What's interesting is the people that will follow the leader right away and influence large amount of people. So the followers are more interesting than the initiators. Because you can have lots of initiators and nothing happens. The follower is what generates the bubble.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Makes it 100 times better. So you have to, and and this is why you have to have a team. That's why you have to be organized with your team. That's why you have to break down the concepts and identify streams of research, and then independently research these. You can't expect babysitting from me telling you this is the subject, research it. Next week, this is the subject, research it. This is your group secret of identifying the subject and then researching them. And unfortunately, it's like looking for gold. Sometimes your research, you find nothing. You just mine, deeper, 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 deeper. And you have to know when it's deep enough that you don't need to keep going deeper and move on to somewhere else. Right? Because you don't have a year to do that. You just have a month and a half to do your research. And so until mid, the second, third week of October, this is where you just research, identified all these subjects. So I think what you want to do is find the subjects, then maybe look for some books, then look for some blogs, then look for some social media on those subjects, then read the comments people are making, right? And I see people are talking about different, just in this, there's just in the chat, there's a ton of information there. Obviously, there is the CBD movement. The CBD movement, that's sort of connected, obviously. So I don't know to the extent CBD and earthing could be connected, but there is some connection. Yeah, what else? EPs. Well, the problem I see with EPs is I think that's already the direction the movement has taken this. A lot of the video and people that they use in order to portray the earthing shoes have a little bit of a hippie look. And personally, I think it makes sense, but it's sort of alienating a little bit the rest of the people. So I wouldn't want the shoe, if I, because I'm already thinking that they can be more mainstream. I think that's sort of limiting with no reasons too much.
It's like you're missing out on broad appeal potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine yours, because I can see also there's another stream that seems to be coming out, is people that run. I think there's one brand, it's called Earth Runners or something, but that's the name they give it. And so Earth Runners, it shows people running and all of this. That's so different than the EPs. And that's essentially what I would have wanted you to find. That would have been an easy one. It's for runners. I don't know the argument on how the earthing shoes are helping runners. I suppose that it's something to do with the fact that you are disconnected from the ground or whatever. I know there's a number of people that run without shoes, and there's supposed to be some kind of benefits when you run without shoes as well, and strengthening your whatever it is and all that, and helping. So yeah, that could be. Could you imagine a shoe? That could be interesting. That's the direction I would go, is looking at more of a fashion type of shoes. Yeah, fashion type of shoes that would be helping you be more grounded. Yeah, or people that are, I hate to say that, but just thinking out loud, there's people who are sick. People who are sick and wanting to get extra help and getting grounded shoes. What about young people? Like thinking about grounded shoes for toddlers, infants, little kids like this.
Say it would keep them healthy, basically, or I don't know, you can put that idea in their head.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's an idea of connecting, but I think there's people that, there's another thing with Another movement that is going on right now, it's called white spot. Anyone has heard of white spot? White spot. So white spot, I found about it inside searching on wealthy people, because I found that there's some hotels. And also there are hotels that it's like $5,000 a night. It's not cheap hotel, but $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a night hotel. When you go in these, they have a white spot room. So you go to the Carlton, you go to a Four Seasons. It's even above Four Seasons. And it's called the white spot room. And the white spot room is a room where there is no Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, no electrical interferences. It's a room that either is in an area of the resort that doesn't get affected by electrical interferences or earths or whatever, or it's a room that has some thick wall that they put in there, so your cell phone wouldn't work in there. You go in there, your cell phone is dead, doesn't work. And some wealthy people go in those white spot hotel because they don't want to be under electric waves and all of this. When they buy houses as well, you can have it on your phone. I'll tell you the name of the application. Name of the application is, it's called White Spots. The name of the application is called White Spots. It was developed by MIT University in Massachusetts. So it's an application that you download for free from the internet, and it gives you white spots. So billionaires have oftentimes the white spot application, and you take it and you put it around you, and you can see all the electric things that are around you. It's like all the electric pollution that is around you. And now the hotel, they offer white spot nights, resorts, vacation, free white spot vacation. And when they buy a house, it's like, is there a pool? Yes. Is there a jacuzzi? Yes. Is there a wine cellar? Yes. Is there elevator? Yes. Is there a 36-car garage? Yes. Is there a white spot? It's part of the characteristics for buying billionaire houses now. And that shoe is sort of going with the same train of thought, is the shoe that connects you to the energy of the ground, where you can have the positive and the negative thing. So could there be a grounded shoe for very wealthy people, like a very expensive shoe for wealthy people?
You just slap a label on it. Have like one of those, like Supreme has all these collabs, right, with all these different people and brands, and they do this in order for them to like have these huge resale values on the market as well,
Yeah.
So maybe you can brand it in a way where it's like disconnect but connect, like
disconnect.
Yeah. So there's this whole wave of getting your kids out of like, you limit your kids on technology or whatnot. So, for on the opposite ends with the earthing shoes, you can say, it's not a brand, we're disconnecting from brands. So there could also be that on the opposite end. So there's, for the people who have money and like the labels, you do that. But then the people who are trying to stay away, because there is a movement of rich people rejecting labels and society's expectations of billionaires and rich people.
Yes, that's right.
So you can kind of market to both of them at the same time.
Well, actually, you know what? I love this project more and more after I hear you. It's really cool. If I was a student, I would have such a fun doing this. I think I could see Patagonia, actually. I just mentioned that brand. Patagonia doing earth shoes. That makes so much sense. Then I could see some fancy Prada shoe with a earthing component,
Yeah, so like for those people who reject the label, there's something for that.
And then the one that reject the label, you could have that. That one.
Because it's like such a huge movement now to be like, oh, I don't buy into labels, like that whole idea of being authentic, but then you're still kind of following the mass of people trying to be authentic, you know, so everybody's trying to be individualistic, but without realizing they're all just looking the exact same.
Okay. See, I don't know a lot about this, so I would research to see the size of this, but I find it very interesting. Thank you, Olga, for sharing. This is awesome. So that's what the project is about. You're a business person. You are given an opportunity, earthing, choose. You see, it's developing in front of our eyes. In 1 year, I've done this enough times that in 1 or 2 years, I'll get email or messages through Messenger or LinkedIn of students saying, oh, did you see that? They did exactly what I did in your class in 2021. And I can't believe it. We should have done it, Professor. We should have done it. So that's what you're going to do, come up with the ID supported by the opportunities, and you're going to just have to build it like this. To succeed in this class, what do you need? You need a good group. You need a good communication in your group, and you need to look at the samples. So the samples, there's a lot of them inside Canvas. There's no secrets, there's samples. Students that succeed are the ones that look at the samples. Students that do not succeed are the ones that ignore the samples. The ones that succeed more easily are the ones that go see the samples as early as possible. I recommend you go early, and I recommend that you are open-minded and able to discuss with your team members, that you recognize that this is an opportunity in this class to express yourself, you're going to be looked at as an individual. I don't have a spreadsheet which I'm going to use in order to evaluate you. Your IDs are good as long as they are supported. So you have to have sources, you have to have data. It cannot be something that you pulled out of a hat. If you look at the samples again, you will see they have references. The students have done some questions to some people. So again, I am not saying you should do a questionnaire. And in fact, I recommend that you do not do a questionnaire, that you not do a survey. You should not do a survey, it's too much work. But what you should do is you should be asking people questions. So you're a friend, a flatmate, a neighbor, is you do an interview, is you ask them, you know, what shoe you're wearing, what shoe you used to wear and you don't wear anymore, what do you believe in, what you don't believe in, what do you eat, what you don't eat, just to see what people do, you know. And obviously the growth of supermarkets, there was someone talking about Whole Foods, the growth of people buying from supermarket looking for organic food, that's indirectly related. So there's a big movement here that you need to get yourself interested and see where you're going to be able to come up with your own story for this and why your story makes sense and it's going to work. Marketing is essentially that. First is coming up with a story, coming up with arguments, being able to develop new products based on the change in the environment, and then is to explain how you're going to do it. And so that's sort of what I will be talking more in October, November, on how you're going to do it. But if you're curious, look at the samples. If you're curious, look at SWOT analysis. Understand the concept of opportunity, which is not what you're going to do, but is what is changing in the environment that you can take advantage of.